Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's afternoon, early evening in the GCC right now, and it's here on the west coast of the US. It's morning, and around the world, wherever you are, we have an exceedingly interesting world. And great news is that the GCC is an extraordinarily active area with all sorts of opportunities, and we're going to be talking about those today. In fact, we have two programs planned today, June 29th, and then on July 9th, we have both an in-person and a virtual event where we'll be mainly focused in on the UAE, but we'll be talking about the region overall. The GCC is the Gulf Cooperation Council, and the countries primarily involved in that region are the United Arab Emirates, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Omar, Oman, I'm sorry, Qatar, Kuwait, and Bahrain. It turns out that about 75% of the overall trade is UAE and Saudi Arabia. About 48% of the overall merchandise trade, which is about $1.6 trillion, is the UAE, and 28% is Saudi Arabia. So that accounts for about three quarters of for the six countries. The increase of that trade has been 7.4% from last year. However, going forward, there's an adjustment in terms of the prediction of what trade will be, how it will change, about 5.5% annual growth through 2033. So it's still significant growth, as I think we all know. There's some really dynamic markets here. There's a lot of shifting. There is a lot of technology. There's a lot of unexpected excitement from the standpoint of very untraditional for this region, all sorts of things happening, again, driven largely by the UAE and Saudi Arabia. However, Oman is an incredibly exciting location, and we learned more about that when Rebecca Olson spoke at Global Chamber a few months ago. The good news is today that have a follow-up on that conversation, and that's how we're going to be kicking off opportunities in Oman, recent changes and issues. Rebecca is not available today, but her partner, Harshal Dutia, is available. So, Harshal, thank you for taking the time today to give us an update. I was just kind of blown away by Rebecca's presentation earlier, and I'm kind of expecting something similar today, not to set the expectations too high. Oman has really made some progress, and please share more about the opportunities. Thank you for taking the time. Overall, by the way, for today, we have five speakers. They'll be about 10 minutes each, and hopefully in between all of that, we'll be able to have some questions. In the meantime, as you have questions, please put them in the chat area and we'll manage them there. And hopefully we'll be able to call up some of you to ask your questions as well. Harshal, are you there? And could you kick off, please?
Opportunity. Really appreciate, the sessions you guys bring together. So you rightly said, Rebecca had earlier mentioned about the strategic location of Oman, and since the geopolitical situation in the region, it has been even more visible right now. The reason being Oman doesn't sit in the strait, and all the ports of Oman are strategically located outside of the strait. Whereas any other GCC country, apart from a few ports of UAE and the western ports of Saudi Arabia, all the other ports, need access to the Strait of Hormuz to access for logistics. Due to the disruption of trade, that's when Oman shined through, and a lot of logistics activity started improving, and the goods were redirected to Oman. Oman took some quick steps, that is activating a green channel with the UAE. So that's a customs channel wherein all goods flow freely because, as it was initially mentioned, most of the trade in the GCC is at UAE and Saudi Arabia. So to not disrupt that, although it was disrupted, but to minimize that effect, Oman started a green channel with the UAE. And as of now, globally, shipping lines, uh, businesses, they see the value Oman holds, where it's openly facing the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean, and that makes it really a good strategic location. And even Oman's GCC partners see the value in this location of Oman. There was a railway project planned between all the GCC countries, and right now it's being accelerated to. So initially it was supposed to be to the northern part of Oman, that's Sohar. So 1 hour train ride from Abu Dhabi, and that's now the extension to Salalah, the southernmost port of Oman. The project is being accelerated, and uh, it will make logistics movement much easier because Salalah is a very strategic location. It has direct access to the US, uh, the to South Asia, to Southeast Asia, East Asia, and Africa. And that's why it is turning out to be a major re-export hub, just like Jebel Ali. And the port and the free zone are doing tremendous works to improve the infrastructure. By the way, it's the second most efficient port in the world, but we're striving to improve it even more and improve their capacity and the surrounding infrastructure. So one of them being railway and expanding the roads. So connectivity to other GCC countries is much better. And we will soon be having a webinar along with Salalah Free Zone, and they will also bring Salalah ports along to explain how Salalah can be a much more viable option for shipping liners to save on fuel for various GCC countries to avert risk and to explain the benefits of direct connectivity of that port to other parts of the world. Apart from that, many manufacturers from around the world are considering moving certain production from other GCC nations to Oman. The simple reason being they are export-oriented products, and it will be much better to have them in Oman. Thirdly, many people miss or investors miss this opportunity is Oman is right next to Yemen, and Yemen is a market of 30 million people. Oman also turned out to be the most neutral, country or in this geopolitical situation, and it was the least affected. And I am glad things are much better now. But Oman maintained a constant channel of communication with the US, the other GCC partners, and Iran, and that long-standing neutrality of Oman, or being the Switzerland of the Middle East, turned out to be, much beneficial right now, and that's why businesses are considering, utilizing the location, the neutrality, and also the cost of living is much more economical compared to other GCC countries, especially so I would say it would be comparable a bit to Saudi Arabia, but it's lower than the rest. And that's why many businesses are considering Oman. That's all from my side.
Thank you for the update. How long have you been there, and what have you seen in the time that you've been there in terms of the evolution of the country and of trade?
I'm born and raised in Oman. I'm in fact the third generation in Oman. And over my lifetime, actually, I've most of my working life I've been in Oman, and that would be the last 14 years. And the changes I have seen over time is So the Oman is seen to have a perspective of not developing, but that's not the case. Oman is just doesn't want to lose their culture. So it's not a very skyscraper oriented nation, although we are getting a few right now. But Oman has always thought of maintaining their heritage and having a certain design to their buildings and keeping a low profile basically. But Omanis have been traders since centuries. In fact, the first diplomatic mission from the GCC or the Middle East to the US was from Oman. Uh, and the previous His Majesty, he brought in the Renaissance to develop Oman from a backward nation to a developed nation. And His Majesty Sultan Haytham, who is currently the ruler of Oman, has brought in a very global perspective and a open business perspective to Oman in the last 6 years, and he is bringing in modernization. He's also bringing in the best of everything in the world, be it technology or opportunities, and that's the change I'm seeing right now in Oman in the last 6 years. Is despite being a developed economy, there wasn't the latest and greatest in Oman, and that's now being adapted. And there is a vision of diversifying from oil income or hydrocarbon income to other sources of income, be it tourism or green hydrogen or it is silica mining, different sorts of mining, lithium, all sorts of things, mining, and so that's a new diversification strategy. There is a new department at the government which looks at new initiatives about how something new technologies can be brought to Oman, and the government will support it and even co-invest in it. So there are new funds set up by Oman where the government will co-invest or the ministry directly will co-invest with someone with a project idea. We ourselves as AmCham have evolved since 2017, and the department which I run, that's trade and investment, was started 3 years ago. So we are helping Omani businesses and American businesses explore opportunities in Oman and in the US and bring in the latest and greatest from the US to Oman.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. When is the event that you mentioned that's coming up about the port?
It should be in the third week of July. We are yet to fix a date, but it'll be in the third week of July.
Okay. I'd like to
Yeah.
bring in Michael Tucker to the conversation. Michael, you've been traveling a bit around the region. Have you been to Oman yet? And any initial reaction to the opportunities there?
No, absolutely. I was just there over the Eid holiday. In fact, I was in Salalah, and I can tell you it is a hidden gem for sure. And there's a few incredible beaches there. One place called Reef Beach, just absolutely gorgeous, beautiful mountains. And I will tell you, Harsha, you were talking about trade. I had an opportunity to visit the Frankincense Museum while I was there, and um, for those of you who don't know, I didn't know, frankincense comes from a tree, and it's basically the sap from the tree. And this frankincense, as you can imagine, has been traded for thousands of years. And if you go to this museum, they talk about this trade along with other trade that Oman has done. I mean, these guys have had a relationship with the U.S. since the 1800s. I had an opportunity to see the port of Oman, and it is, I'm sorry, the port of Salalah, and it is massive, 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 massive. So if you're doing anything in terms of shipping, um, it is an incredible place to move goods. And as Ashil was saying, that this is indeed outside of the Strait situation. So.
So,
And
well,
I'd also like to add to what Michael just said.
Yeah.
A unique advantage what Salalah port has is it is one of 5 ports under the initiative of U.S. Customs and Border Protection, wherein they place an officer from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection at the port. So there is a full-time U.S. Customs and Border Protection officer posted at Salalah port. So any US bound goods get that advantage. US CBP is right with you at Salalah port.
Sounds good. Harshal Dutia is the Director of Trade and Investment at the Oman American Business Council, OABC. And as members of Global Chamber, we put high priority on their success. And very fortunately, there's so much going on now in Oman. We all benefit. So thank you, Harshal, for speaking today. And if you wouldn't mind staying, I'm going to focus now on Saudi Arabia with Michael Tucker. Michael is actually someone who has been involved with Global Chamber for before Global Chamber. He was part of what was in Arizona, and he helped set up the chapter in Tucson, Arizona. He's always been globally minded and very entrepreneurial in his work. And it was what, about a year or two ago, Michael, that you came to me and said, I've got this opportunity and I'm really excited by it. And we talked through it and he applied and was accepted. And he's now doing some great work in Saudi Arabia. And whether he ever gets back to Tucson is an open question because there's so much going on. So I wanted to make sure that first of all, you all meet Michael because he's an extraordinary leader and entrepreneur involved in so many exciting things. And his coaching is second to none. And the work that he's doing in leadership teams in Saudi Arabia is really extraordinary. His perspective is unique because he's new to the area. And so, Michael, we have a few minutes for you just to give some thoughts about what you're seeing in Saudi Arabia and to share that with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Doug, and I appreciate the kind words. And hello, Global Chamber members. I'm going to just dive right into it because I am seeing a lot. I'm here based in Riyadh, and I will tell you that even though the media is talking about all the things associated with the war in the region, there's a lot of business occurring here. And what I want to highlight initially, I've got a couple of things here, I guess about 4 or 5 things that I want to talk about. The first thing that I want to talk about is I want to talk about the opportunities for manufacturing and logistics. Um, Saudi Arabia is committed to as great of autonomy as it could possibly have in the region. And to that end, they have some incredible initiatives for organizations, for companies that want to manufacture in the region. There are government programs that will even pay for portions of facilities, portions of workers' salaries if you are putting manufacturing facilities here in the region. And I have some connections that can support you with that. As far as property goes, this is, I mean, really just hot off the press. Foreigners can now purchase property here in the kingdom. So you can purchase property. This was something that was already occurring, but it was primarily just for you to live in the property. Now you can actually purchase property and you can even rent that property. And there are a number of areas that are growing and developing, and there are a number of areas that are in the path of growth and development. So, for example, where I'm just north of the city, and not too far from an area called El Arid. This area is growing, and they're adding extensions to the metro, which will be coming through this area. So, a great place for that. The other thing I want to talk about is just some of the cuts that we're hearing. There's a bit of news about cuts taking place in the kingdom, restructuring, reprioritization of some things that is occurring. However, what I will say is the kingdom is still growing, it's still building, it's still moving forward. Now, to that end, there's also been a fair amount of news about Western consulting firms, some of the larger ones that you might be familiar with, maybe not being on the best terms right now. Part of that does have something to do with the war, and I can't get into all the details about that because that is a whole other diplomatic conversation. But what I will tell you is that if you do have a skill or you do have an ability and you want to bring that to Saudi Arabia, the way to do it has historically been through one of the big four. However, what you're starting to see now spring up are um, a number of consulting firms that are Saudi owned. And if you have relationships with these entities, they can bring you in to work on a number of different projects based on what the government is seeking. And then the last thing I'll just end with is if you decide to bring your company to Saudi Arabia, if you decide to bring business to Saudi Arabia, and you do get a comma, it is good for the GCC. It can be a little bit challenging moving through the region, but once you get that GCC, a comma, which is like a prioritized visa for the region, it just really makes things a lot easier. Of course, there's also the premium residency, which many of you may be aware of, which is a whole other conversation that just opens up so many doors for you. So if you're thinking about doing business here, you're thinking about moving here, you're thinking about bringing your company here, while things are noisy, that's the time to really consider it.
Noisy. That's an interesting phrase. Meaning there's there's a lot going on, and there's talking to you helps clarify what's really going on the ground. I think he started out really wisely by explaining that sometimes not just there, but anywhere in the world, the media tends to the right word isn't glorify, but certainly focus in on the challenges and the problems when in fact the daily life is much calmer and the business world is continuing to do business. It sounds like that's what you're seeing on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so the changes like the project the project changes that happened in Saudi Arabia, certainly the restructuring of that is certainly one of the changes. And as you dig deeper into that story, it looks like it was certainly a grand and glorious project, probably overshot the bounds, and now really it's not that it's not succeeding, it's that it's being restructured.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we all have experienced that in our lives where we shoot for something really big and we have to pivot and take a different approach. But the vision is still there and the kingdom is still growing. And there are plenty of opportunities. And I just want to, someone put my contact information in the chat. Please do reach out to me if you do have an interest in manufacturing here. If you do, one of the big areas here also was car parts. We're looking for American car parts because there are a lot of American cars here. I've actually been reaching out to a couple of car part manufacturers in the States with very little success. So.
That's something we can help with for sure. And in fact, we have an auto-themed event coming up in August at the world's largest electric vehicle marketplace, an in-person event that may be virtual. We'll see. But the automotive industry is one that we know well, and so Michael will happy to circle back with you any help that you need. Uh, thanks everyone for participating today. We appreciate the interest. We're now going to go to Matthew Weeks, Matthew, we can't see you, and that's just a glitch in technology. But one of the really cool things about you and your work is that you're in the UAE, but you cover the region and you've got a perspective of the opportunities and you're seeing it every day. So is there anything that surprised you so far in the conversation or anything that you'd like to elaborate on? And then what would you like to speak on today?
Um, so I've got a few slides that I'll take you guys through, but yeah, I can't, other than echoing what Michael and Harshal have already said. I mean, that this part of the world, I think, presents probably greater opportunity right now than anywhere else. And we're seeing it day to day with the sheer volume of inquiries that we're getting for the services that we provide. So I think can you hear me okay?
We can, absolutely.
Okay, good. So why don't I just take you through these slides very quickly, and then people can ask some questions if needs be. Uh,
That sounds like a plan. Please go ahead.
okay, can you see that?
It's loading,
Let me know when you can see.
and the
Hopefully
magic has happened on our end. So we do see it.
good.
Strategic industry opportunities in the GCC.
Good. Well, at least that worked. My camera didn't, but at least the presentation worked. So, no, I did one of these a few weeks ago. So apologies if anyone's hearing this stuff for the second time. But I think it's worth just giving everyone a bit of context about myself and obviously the organisation I work for and why we're kind of relatively well placed to talk about the opportunities that this region presents. I've been here for the last 15, 16 years, and I have worked in that time alongside a number of businesses, helping them explore and expand into this region and across this region. And then about 4.5 years ago now, probably closing in on 5 years, I joined Auxilium as part of the founding team. And effectively, what we do is uh, we help companies expand into the GCC, and we offer a range of services to help them facilitate that move. And that includes employer of record, uh, a range of a range of corporate and residency services, and then some more kind of traditional staffing solutions through a brand under the Auxilium umbrella, which is called Workforce Plus. And just to give you an idea of scale, we currently have across all of those different business units, there's probably close to 2,500 people that we support in one capacity or another for them to be here living and working compliantly. And that's across 400 plus clients. We've got a team of about 48 people, the vast majority of which are based in the UAE, and then the 4 regional offices, which are Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Qatar, and Riyadh, or Doha and Riyadh. I think the most significant recent update, other than some of the stuff that the other two gentlemen have touched on, is obviously the UK GCC free trade agreement. It's a major new deal between the UK and obviously all 6 of the Gulf states. And the idea being that it will remove tariffs on around 93% of UK good exports and improve access for services and investment, and obviously just make it far easier for UK businesses to do business in this part of the world. And I think it's a huge step in the right direction for the UK, particularly with some of the challenges that the UK is having. But I think it will be hugely beneficial for this region as well to attract, I think, some industry leaders, to attract some really great talent as well. In terms of business sectors, and this is really this is a combination of kind of where we're seeing the most amount of growth, from what the research is telling us, from what the data is telling us, but also what we're kind of experiencing hand on. And this is where we as a business are primarily focused. So obviously data centers, cloud infrastructure, you can see there the market is going to be always, I believe, currently valued at about $93 billion across 174 projects within technology, AI, and software. You've got over 500 companies that are active in the UAE and growing at 35% CAGR. In terms of construction, that's going to scale to over 226 billion by 2030. Oil and gas, similar kind of forecast at 550 billion. And I won't go through all of it, but you just get an idea of the sheer scale of the opportunity within some of these industry sectors. And I mean, for us as a business that helps companies enter into and expand across the region, this is where we're focusing our marketing dollars. How do we help those companies, or how do we help companies within these industries to really take to make the most of the potential that really is available here in terms of what the various the governments are trying to simply trying to achieve. In terms of UAE residency, Michael actually touched on a few of the options that are available in Saudi, Iqamas, and so on. But particularly in the UAE, there are various residencies available now, and they seem to kind of continue to add to the options that are available. But you've now got golden visas, so that's 10-year residency for investors, high salary professionals, and those with a kind of unique or exceptional talent. You've got remote work visas, so this helps individuals that are employed by an overseas company but actually want to be based here, living and working compliantly. There is obviously certain kind of criteria that you need to meet there, with a minimum salary of $3,500 a month. You've got investor visas, so those that own property worth at least 750,000 dirhams can secure a 2-year visa. Dependent visas for those that are moving here under the sponsorship of another individual. So they're available, and then obviously there's the freelance visa, and both Saudi and the UAE are positioning themselves as kind of regional tech leaders through AI, 5G infrastructure, and data center investment. And the idea being that they want to try and pull as much talent in from around the world to help them deliver on some of those objectives. I'm not going to read that statement. You guys can all read that statement for yourselves, but I think it really is a case of what opportunity individuals and businesses are missing out on by not exploring this part of the world. I mean, Michael's touched on some of the stuff that's been happening more recently. I can assure you that it is very much business as usual on the ground. Hopefully the worst of it has passed, but I think for what we experienced was a slight slowdown maybe in the international companies that don't already have a local footprint here, kind of plugging people into region maybe for the first time. Maybe some of those start dates have been pushed by a few months. But in terms of the businesses that are already here, the businesses that are already delivering some of these huge projects and helping some of those numbers that I mentioned earlier come to life, those companies are still hiring, are still growing, are still delivering the work that they plan to deliver based on the timelines that were originally committed to. In terms of how we help companies that are entering into this region, I don't know if for those of you that aren't familiar with employer of record, but basically what that means is we act as the legal employer in country on behalf of companies that don't have a legal entity of their own. So those individuals, those employees sit under our sponsorship. They have a visa through us. We process their payroll, take care of all of their statutory benefits, and just make sure that those individuals are living and working compliantly. And that's right across all 6 of the GCC countries. We moved into the company formation space a few years ago, and that's the reason for that is it's a natural evolution for companies to come in under the EOR model, test the water, put some boots on the ground, begin to understand the nuances of doing business in this region, are successful, and therefore as they scale that business, it makes sense for them to set up locally and sponsor their employees directly. Post incorporation, so there's a range of services that we provide to make sure that those businesses that we have helped set up continue to operate, and particularly if you're looking at that kind of post EOR model, often clients of ours that have gone through EOR setup and moved to kind of post setup continue to engage us in a HR and payroll capacity, so that they're getting all of the ongoing advice around the various employment laws, or the right ways to pay people, the right ways to structure packages, and so on. Workforce Plus I touched on earlier, so that's very much your end-to-end manpower and staffing solution. So helping companies that operate within the kind of construction, warehousing, aviation, oil and gas space to recruit skilled and unskilled workers. And we take care of their full employment lifecycle, even to the point of we're responsible for accommodating them, transporting them to and from site every day, and so on. Residency services is some of the stuff that we touched on in the previous slide. So helping individuals who are eligible for these various products to process those visas and ensure that that is done in the right way and as quickly as possible. And then there's a range of services that we can provide those individuals. So we've had people come in for a golden visa, and then we've ended up supporting them with setting up a trust or a foundation, or if they've got plans to invest in real estate here, we've got partners that we can introduce them to. And then relocation services is something that's quite new, but what we've built is a bit of a mobility ecosystem around the employment solutions that we offer. So what became quite apparent to me is, I think if you don't get the relocation of an individual right, whether that person's relocating as an individual or whether that person's relocating as the employee of a company, I think it's something ridiculous like 42% of overseas deployments end up failing. And therefore, we wanted to make sure that all of the different elements that feed into somebody relocating and building a new life in this region has been taken care of by partners that have a very kind of shared view on how people's relocation and employment should be managed. Just in terms of anybody on this call or anybody within the kind of the global chamber network, if you are looking to expand here, if you're already here and you're having issues with kind of administrative gaps, visa quota, etc., or if you're a company that is advising other companies on how to enter these markets, how to expand in these markets, the right way to do business here, the right way to employ people here, we would be absolutely delighted to have a conversation with anybody really, as long as and quite open for that conversation to be advisory, in the hope that it ends up that we're in a position to deliver some work with you, for you, for a client of yours, and so on. And then final bit from me, for any kind of global chamber members, we're more than happy to do an introductory consultation to discuss GCC expansion as a whole, hiring, relocating staff, the challenges of employing people here, the nuances of employing people here, because it is ever changing, and it's ever changing for the right reasons. I think a lot of the labour laws that were written maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, I think the governments here are very aware that some of those laws are outdated, and they're working very hard to bring everything into the 21st century, and they're doing that at quite a speed at the moment. I hope that was useful.
Very much so. Thank you very much. We're going to, I don't see Amr Abdul, and so he must have dropped off. So let's go to Awas Chugtai, who is in the UAE and also covers the region. And what I'd ask Matthew of you, and also for Harshal and Michael as well, if you could monitor the chat area for any questions that are there, and we'll finish up with a Q&A section. And if anyone in the audience does have a question, feel free to raise your hand and we can pull you up onto the stage as well. So Awas Chugtai has been a member of Global Chamber for a while, and you've had a recent change where you're now with a new firm. So congratulations. I think we've posted your LinkedIn, or you have posted your LinkedIn, and you're you're a super connector, and so everyone should connect up with all of the speakers. And certainly, Alice knows people. And through that knowing people and being a capable leader, he's got his finger on the pulse of a lot of the opportunities in the region as well. So, Alice, could you give us your perspective as well?
Thank you, Doug. Good morning or good evening. And it's my pleasure to be presenting the opportunities, in the region. Um, Before I do, Mila, if you could please share the one of the slides. So while I'm, discussing about, different opportunities and updates, this is kind of, you know, the UAE, I would say in numbers. So basically, it's corporate. Everyone talks about low corporate, 9% corporate tax, in the UAE. We have like 45 plus free zones, and some of them specific to, a sector. The banking sector assets in the UAE is close to 1.47 trillion dollars. And then the most attractive part, which is attracting a lot of expats into the UAE, is basically no personal income tax and salary dividends and capital gains. So, like Doug mentioned, I recently joined Crossway Global. I'm the director of strategic relations there, and I basically handle the business setup and corporate services. So we have three divisions. One is business setup corporate services. The other one is mobility and immigration, and the third is HR talent solutions. So all three of us, we are three different, senior executives. One ex-Fragaman, the gentleman who founded the company, and we have one gentleman from Mercer Consulting. So we all are experts, I would say, in our own individual field. So we do business setup, free zone, mainland company setup. We are Abu Dhabi based, so our focus is obviously Abu Dhabi, but we also do Dubai and certain free zones as well. We do corporate tax registrations and R&D incentive structuring, golden visas, investor residency, end-to-end visas for the staff, and also government procurement accounts and public-private partnerships. So in terms of where the opportunities are, I would say business. It's actually business as usual in the UAE right now because I talk to different leaders. I talk to company owners, C-level executives, and I don't feel that there is any kind of an uncertainty or any kind of people have any concerns about the growth of this economy because the investor confidence is actually very high. If I talk about the numbers, behind the opportunity, so the UAE GDP grew 6.2% in 2025 to 517 billion US dollars. The non-oil GDP is up to 6.8%. So this economy is going into diversification. Non-oil foreign trade crossed 1 trillion US dollars for the first time, and the 2026 federal budget is up 29% year on year. Now that's a government which is investing forward in its economy. And despite everything going on regionally this year, which I'll leave it to the geopolitical analysts, the central bank has confirmed the banking sector is sitting on, like I mentioned, 1.47 trillion US dollars. Now that's a big statement. That's not just numbers. That's just UAE giving a very big statement to the rest of the world. In terms of people who are coming into the UAE investing in the real estate market, so Abu Dhabi launched their waterfront residential project, and within 72 hours, the whole project was sold out, and 2/3 of the buyers were overseas investors. Dubai real estate hit $252 billion in transactions alone in Q1. DIFC family offices now manage roughly 1.2 trillion in assets and growing. So this is basically sentiment surveys our opinion. Capital moving is the proof of the market. If we talk about the regulatory market, the R&D tax credits of up to 50% on qualifying expenditure, the UAE is paying companies to innovate here, not just taxing them lightly. So there is mandatory e-invoicing rolling out this month, which is paired with zero bureaucracy initiative. I touched upon the corporate tax. So corporate tax is one of the lowest in the world. So it's 9% above the profits above 375,000 dirhams, or you can say close to 100,000 USD. In the US, the corporate tax is around 21%. Canada is between 25 to 31%. UK is 25%. On average, the OECD economies is 23.5%. So UAE is well below all the major economies. Now, if we talk about sector-specific opportunities for, let's say, US and Canadian companies, the US, for the US, the UAE is 1.4 trillion US dollars, which is a 10-year investment plan to the US, is actively being delivered. So the sectors they're focusing on is AI infrastructure, energy, advanced manufacturing, and finance. These are termed as the priority sectors. Recently, with Canada, the UAE and Canada signed a CEPA, which is Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. And this gives Canadian investors clearer legal protection and a way to market. The Canada-UAE relationship especially flags engineering, aerospace, agriculture, critical minerals, AI, data infrastructure as priority growth sectors. And they're aiming to double that within a decade. So where this translates into real opening. So engineering, construction, tech, and facility management. So you have direct access to Abu Dhabi's 55 billion public-private partnership pipeline without needing to be a main contractor. Energy and critical minerals. So US and Canadian companies can benefit from energy and critical minerals investment. AI infrastructure and data centers. First, NVIDIA GPU shipments have already landed in the UAE. The Canadian AI data center MOU signed in late 2025 are a direct entry point. When it comes to agri-food, the UAE explicitly named Canada-UAE discussions, basically addressing UAE food security priorities with the Canadian production strength. Now, where I point capital and attention right now, so if you talk about Abu Dhabi's 55 billion, 24 project pipeline is open to private bidders right now, road, water, infrastructure, schools. So you don't need to be a main contractor. Engineering, facilities management, construction, tech, and logistic firms all have a real seat at the table. Free zone specificity. Over 45 free zones now exist, increasingly purpose-built, like I mentioned. So if you have logistics, there's a free zone for logistics. If it's technology, there is a free zone for technology. If there is critical minerals, there is a free zone for that. There are, like I mentioned, 45 free zones. So you can choose whichever free zone is relevant for your business. I would close it here by saying that none of this requires betting on a story that hasn't started yet. The growth, the capital inflows, the infrastructure spend is already happening. The only real question is whether you're positioned to be part of it or watching from outside. Happy to connect with everyone. My email address is mentioned in the screen. My LinkedIn is also being shared. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And also for the members of the Global Chamber, I'm happy to schedule a 30-minute complimentary call to discuss your specific requirements of market entry into the UAE. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We just have about 5 minutes left before we'll end the call. And so I wonder if each one of the speakers could either answer a question in the chat or give a closing comment, but only up to about a minute. So Matthew and Michael and Awes, we'll give you a moment. Michael or Matthew, would you like to make a closing comment? Don't be shy. Oh, you're both on mute, so.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that if you are thinking about expanding, you definitely need to consider Saudi Arabia. I mean, it's really simple. I know the UAE gets a lot of the limelight, and they're doing a lot of big, amazing things. But I like to, in the words and the thoughts of Wayne Gretzky, go to where the puck is going. And that's what's occurring here.
Extraordinary development with the investment of land property there in Saudi Arabia. Just very new development. So thank you for spotlighting that.
You bet.
Alice mentioned data centers, and the region is a good place for data centers because of geologic stability and weather that's predictable. Haboobs happen there as well. Have you been through a haboob there as well, Michael, yet? Or like in Tucson?
Not like in Tucson.
Okay.
It's worse. But
It's
yeah,
worse. Uh,
yeah, and well, the one I would say coming out of Phoenix actually was worse than what I experienced here. And they do have them here. They've had a few. You just go inside and hide.
Okay, very good. So, for those of us that have lived in Arizona, we know the haboobs happen there as well. But there's plenty of data centers there, and I wanted to point out that on Wednesday we do have an expert that has Arizona ties talking about global data center markets. So, if you'd like information about that, Foreign Direct Investment Forum at Global Chamber happens every Wednesday, and that conversation this week is going to be centered around data centers. Matthew, would you like to make a closing comment?
The only thing I would probably add to everything that I've already said is if you are if you're not already here, but you are considering expanding into this region to really make a success of this part of the world, it remains as much investment that's happening. It still remains a very relationship driven place. You need to be on the ground. You need boots on the ground. You need people here on a permanent basis developing those relationships. If you don't, and I've seen many very great businesses put people in on short-term assignments, put people in once or twice every quarter, and it categorically does not work. You need people here full time to really build on whatever success you've already had internationally.
Great insight. Alice, undoubtedly that's something that matters to you as well, that you see. What would you like to close with, please?
Absolutely, I would echo what Matthew just said, but also at the same time that um, if you want to, develop your business in this market and build lasting relationships, you have to consider setting up your company in one form or the other. Otherwise, it's just a meeting over, key anchor events once or twice a year. And then once you're gone, basically, you don't have that personal touch as you would if you have a feet on the ground and if you're constantly connecting. And also, one of the more important things to remember, and I think other GCC countries will probably have similar thing, is that it takes time for you to close a deal. You cannot expect everything to happen in just one sitting or few Zoom calls here and there. It may happen in other parts of the world, but this country or this region is very much, like he said, relationship driven. You have to present yourself. You have to attend different trade shows, different conferences, and like if you're a member of Global Chamber, attend local chapters in this region. And yeah, so like I and this is what the successful companies who manage to set up their operations here will tell you the same story because they also, were at one point just attending events, but once they decided to set up an office, the relationship got stronger and they were able to grow in the GCC.
Brilliant. Absolutely. And our next in-person event is July 9th in Dubai. And so the information is in the chat area. And so our last speaker today, Harshal, who was our first speaker, Harshal, what would you like to close with, please?
I'd like to say that it's finally coming to fruition that GCC is in the middle of the world. So it's where all the countries they meet at a crossroad, and that's the GCC, and it's visible in all the trade agreements the region is entering into. So we discussed a lot about them. Oman also got a CEPA with India. They are the one of two countries in the GCC who have a free trade agreement with the US and with the UK FTA coming up. Plus the GCC itself is a customs union. and there is a larger Middle East and North Africa customs, trade agreement as well. So it is creating a synergy. It's eventually, I see all the GCC economies working together because they are much stronger together, and it will be something which will be in the center of the world, and exactly not only through sea or air but also land over the Belt Road Initiative. I recently heard after the geopolitical situation that the Turkish transport minister is planning to revive the traditional railway from Saudi to Istanbul, and it will extend all the way to Salalah, so to the south of Oman. So the value of GCC is now being seen. The key advantage is all of them are already developed economies, so they have the resources to quickly implement any new changes and infrastructure projects. And there are always setbacks, like how Michael said, Saudi had some setbacks, but it's still the biggest economy, and the size of projects is really big, despite being setbacks. There being setbacks. So yeah, GCC the next decade will be setting itself up as the crossroads of the world.
Dreaming big, implementing well, and a crossroads of the world. It's exciting to see the dynamic changes going on in this region and around the world. It's scary, it's exciting, and it's for the taking for those of you who are after it. And those of you that are here already are very interested and already going after it. And so thank you for participating today. Our next conversation about the GCC is on September 9th, July 9th. And that will be a joint event, a hybrid event with Global Chamber Dubai, and Ayman Alawadi will be leading that conversation in person and virtually. Thanks, everybody, for participating. Thank you so much for all of our speakers. You were outstanding. Check out other opportunities. I think I'll leave with the concept of how important it is to build trust, to be connected and to stay connected and to meet people in person and to combine that in-person activity with both virtual and in person. The combination is essential for global growth. That's what Global Chamber is all about. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Thanks, Doug.
Cheers. Thank you, gentlemen. Michael, thank you. You're amazing. Thanks, everybody who's attended as an attendee. You really appreciate it. Let us know how it was.
Welcome, Doug. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care.